4 previous seasons, the field sizes have grown larger. For 4 previous seasons, the competition has grown tougher. For a handful of drivers, the Season 5 championship is there for the taking. For most everyone else, it will be as elusive to grasp as a feather in the breeze. This is the Blondies MX5 World Tour. Organized by the Quality Racing Syndicate. Last time on the Blondies MX5 World Tour. The engines are starting to rev. Lights are up, and there they go. They're off on round 3 at Lime Rock Park. João Freitas leads them out to the first turn.
Yes, and surprisingly clean start. MJ, of course, is second currently in the championship. He's got everything to lose if he can't get up further on the leaderboard, Joe.
Amjad makes a nice move on the inside of Marcus into turn 1. That's about the only passing spot on this track.
He is pushing along. I think he's decided that there's no point in waiting around here, Joe.
Bolin just got bumped. Tom goes off the track. Dexter inherits both positions.
Up at the top of the leaderboard, we now have Mihai Dragan. He has got quite a few meters on João Freitas. But in 5th place, we've got Dexter Castro now. We always expected some good things from Dexter because he's been one of those drivers who's been there or thereabouts, but never really able to crack it.
If he can clean up his act, I think he could be a top contender in this championship. And Dexter actually is coming into the pits right now.
He might be taking an early pit stop.
We're going to have to see how it plays out. We could see some jumping going on in the pits.
I am watching João Freitas at this point in time, and he's right off the track. He's got damage on the rear of his car. This could be the end of João Freitas, Joe.
I would more expect these guys to try either something through traffic or into turn 1. As they come into traffic now, in fact, around the outside of turn 6, Marcus just goes clear past Amjad. Very, very smart driving from Marcus. And Arthur Chan just made a big mistake, though. Jer is right up behind him. Is he going to try and make a dive? They got a lapped car right there, and they're going to go 3 wide. Jer looks to the outside, but he's not going to make it there. And Arthur holds on to his position. But right now, Guillermo Rato is pitting.
He's parked.
I'm getting word that he blew his transmission as he was coming into the pits. That's, wow, interesting turn of developments. Amjad Yaman is in second.
And I tell you, this is the battle we need to be watching right now because Dexter has got the bit between his teeth. Mihai has pitted. Then this is your 1st and 2nd place, Joe.
But we could see Amjad take his 2nd win in 3 races, and both times through strategy. That's pretty incredible stuff. He's got Hiro Kanaya, one of our ephemeral back markers, in front of him currently, and he blocks Dexter coming through turn 6. This is gonna seal it, I think. That's the end. That's the checkered flag.
It's done.
Has taken his 2nd win. Dexter did a really good job, though. You know, I don't think we should discredit that drive at all. This is his very first podium. You know, also in 3rd, we've got Arthur Chan, who managed to hold off Dragon and Jer, who finished in 4th and 5th respectively. Richard? Hello and welcome to round 4 of the Blondies MX5 World Tour, broadcast live on the Global Sim Racing channel. I'm Joe Peak. With me in the booth is the talented Richard Losper and our pit reporter Ayrton Ellis. Behind the scenes, directing all the cameras, is Giancarlo Lenzi. Glad to have you here, guys.
Glad to be here, Joe.
Well, Richard, today the drivers are going to do battle on the 2.25-mile Charlotte Motor Speedway road course. For about 30 laps, our competitors must not only do battle on the steep banking of the oval portion, but also navigate the winding infield. With the draft having a huge effect on the latter half of the lap, we expect it to play a big part in the strategy for drivers. In the championship battle, Jan Koemans is holding on to his title defense, but he leads by a scant 7 points. Amjad Yaman has proven himself a formidable competitor, having won 2 of his first 3 races in the series, and is currently second. Well, even though we're only heading into round 4, the next driver down is Douglas Beard, and he's 76 points back. The usual big names such as Yao Freitas, Guilherme Rato, Yair Yanis, and Mihai Dragan have been floundering in a sea of mistakes, bad timing, and bad luck. Today's going to be really key to getting their championship hopes back on track. With some rising talent threatening to dethrone these titans, we could see Dexter Castro, Arthur Chan, or maybe even Marcus Lambert become the new men to beat in this series. Today we're going to find out at the motorsport mecca of the Carolinas. Richard?
Well, I am really looking forward to it, Joe. At the moment, you spoke briefly about folks like Guilherme Rato and João Freitas. I'm just looking at the practice times, and Guilherme Rato is topping the leaderboard at the moment. He's being followed in practice. This is all practice times, of course. He's being followed by Stefan Morien, which is a little bit of a surprise for me. João Freitas is up there with Arthur Chan and Yair Yanis. So the usual names are still up there on the leaderboard, Joe.
They are, although we haven't seen Stefan Moraine quite far this high up before. I know you and I were talking briefly before the broadcast that we were a bit surprised, but it seems he's a bit of a Roval specialist.
That's exactly right, and be interesting to see what he can do today. To be fast in practice is one thing, but to actually put those same sorts of times in the actual race might be totally different. We'll see what happens. However, we've got other names there as well. Dexter Castro is currently in 7th in practice, and Sam McAleer's up there. We know that Sam McAleer is pretty fast, but he hasn't shown on the leaderboard much in the races that he has done. So we're looking for a good showing from some of these guys. Tom Rathy's up there as well. A new name that we haven't seen is Thomas Hallonen, and I know that he's pretty fast, so looking forward to see some good stuff from him as well, Joe.
Definitely, and some of those guys are it's getting to be do or die time about getting their championship hopes back on track. Well, Richard, from what I understand, you had put together a bit of a track guide for us, is that correct?
Yes, we did. Actually, the track guide was the driver was our co-commentator, Ayrton Ellis, who's not here at the moment. He will be here very shortly and join us in the booth. But he did the actual driving, and I did a commentary on what he's done. And Giancarlo has prepped that for us. Perhaps it might be a good time to show it now as they start qualifying. Giancarlo? Not only talk, but he can drive as well. And Ayrton is now on the oval section, approaching turn 1, which is a very fast left-hander. You need to be very close to the grass verge and avoid the wall on the right-hand side. Full speed into turn 2, slight braking for the right-hander into turn 3, then brake a bit harder into turn 4, keeping as low as possible, then a short straight and a very fast right-hander turn 5. Straight after the turn, brake very hard for the blind corner into turn 6, and then get ready for the left-hander, which is the approach onto the oval, watching out for the fence on your right-hand side. Once you are on the oval, keep low. It is the fastest way around the oval. You will probably reach speeds of up to 120 miles per hour around the oval section, and if you are in a draft situation, speeds will probably get up to around 130 miles per hour. As Ellis comes around the final turn of the course, approaching the start-finish line and getting ready once again to take turn 1. And there you have it, folks, a lap around Charlotte Road Course. with Ayrton Ellis.
That was great stuff, Richard. Definitely informative, for this is a bit of an unusual track for most road racers, although many have driven on it, since it tends to show up earlier in the lower series. So, interestingly, Jan Kueneman is not here today, and that brings me to his title defense and the scoring system, because they have a bit of an interesting scoring system here, Richard. Apparently, they have 7 drop races in a way, but they're not exactly drop races. Your scores get averaged out, and the first race that you miss, you get 100% of those scores. Second race, 90%, and so on down a sliding scale. So you can miss a few, but after 7 races, that's when you run out and you start losing points. So it'll Jan is starting to kind of eat away at his, because he's actually only been to 1 race so far.
Yes, that's a little weird if you look at it just from a point of view where you think the more you race, the more points you should have accumulated. But in Jan's case, he's actually raced only 1 race and he's at the top of the leaderboard. And in fact, if we just run down the leaderboard as it stands now after 3 races, we have Jan Kueneman, as you said, at the top of the board. He's followed by MWTS. Now, I can't speak highly enough of this young man. He's done some really good things. 2 wins out of 3 races is not a bad achievement against the sorts of competition he's had. Douglas Beard, who had a showing just in 2 weeks ago, the race at Lime Rock Park. I don't believe he was in any of the other races. He's actually in 3rd place. So there's your top 3 already. Some of the fancied names like Kueneman and João Freitas in particular, who certainly are amongst the fastest every week when they're doing practice and qualifying, they are a little bit further down in the standings, Joe.
Yeah, and I think that just goes to show you that you can have all the speed in the world, but all that's good for is hot lapping, because when the green flag falls, racecraft is going to decide how you fare amongst 30 some odd other competitors around you. So yeah, it's kind of odd to see them so far down, but as I said in the intro, they've kind of made a lot of mistakes. They've also had some bad luck. We saw on the intro video that I believe it was João Freitas got tangled up with a back marker 2 weeks ago in Lime Rock Park, which is going to happen, but he's got some time to try and make it work. So it looks like they're going to be getting... Are they into qualifying already, actually, Richard?
Absolutely. The 8 minutes of qualifying has already taken place. As we were just mentioning a couple of seconds ago, João Freitas is top of the leaderboard. He's currently followed by Jer Yanis and Arthur Chan, with Tom Rathi in 4th place and Guillermo Rato in 5th place. So once again, these drivers are at the top of the leaderboard, Joe.
Yeah, it's definitely looking like the usual suspects. Behind them, though, we've got Marcus Lambert in 6th, and he's had a fair showing. He's another one that's kind of fallen victim of a few incidents of bad luck, but his strategy and racecraft is somewhat paying off. As let me look at where he is in the standings. He's actually 9th in the standings, which, with the number of cars we have competing and the amount of talent in this series, that's very respectable.
Absolutely. I find, just from my own experience in the iRacing service, it is not all about speed. I mean, you've proven that a number of times. It's all about knowing when to be fast and when to back away from potential problems. And another name for that, of course, is racecraft. And some people have it, and some people are just hard chargers. They don't know when to back down, and those are the ones who have the so-called bad luck, Joe.
Yeah, very much so. The old racing saying is you make your own luck, and I definitely believe that's true. Well, looking at the leaderboards here, as you said, João Freitas is currently leading. And it looks like we have a few guys actually who might be waiting in the booth. I'm checking to see if anybody is out of their car and maybe willing to talk. I see Arthur Chan is out of his car and he's got some laps down. In fact, he's currently third. Should we bring him in and see if he'd be up to talk about how he expects the race to go?
Love that. Love to have a few words with Arthur.
Arthur, can you hear us?
I can hear you, no problem.
Arthur, you're currently sitting third in qualifying here. We've got, well, it looks like about 5 minutes left in it. What are some of the key factors that you think that's going to help people get up to the front today?
Well, I think I have to say that my qualifying position is a bit of a classic case of qualifying out of position. I caught a really big draft off of Dexter Castro just out of coincidence. It's nothing we arranged, but I'd have to say I'm probably qualified somewhat with the quicker guys, so it's going to be a bit of a struggle for me to keep that place in the race. I think, yeah, the draft is going to be a big part of it.
Do you think, are you saying that it's going to be a big part of the race as well as in the qualifying?
It's hard to say. I mean, I think at the very top of the field, the quickest guys are quite a bit quicker than everyone else, so they will probably choose to partner up and draft just to get some space between them in the midfield. I'm sure you're going to see a lot of interesting passes going into turn one and probably a bit of carnage as well.
Last week we saw early pit stops kind of play into the hands of a few people. Do you think that's going to be the strategy this time around? Do you think things are going to be switched up around here?
I think it's going to depend how the traffic plays out. In my particular case, I'm sitting on 2 penalty points, and depending on what happens in the first 10 laps, I may even choose to take my voluntary pass through just to clear that penalty. I think it's going to depend on really where you end up in the first couple of laps, whether you're stuck in a big group or not, and whether you think you're being held up.
That's an interesting point brought up with those penalty points. Well, we're looking forward to seeing how you fare today. Hopefully you can follow up to last week's podium with another one.
Thanks very much. I have to be honest, and I say I'm not optimistic, but I'll do my best, drive as clean as possible, and try and even up the score on those fences. They've gotten the better of me quite a few times in practice.
A humble man to the end. Thank you for talking to us, Arthur.
No problem. Thanks, Drew.
Well, you know, Arthur brought up a very interesting point with those penalty points, Richard, because they have a very interesting system. Would you like to talk about that a bit?
Joe, that's your speciality. I might leave that one to you. I would like to have a word with Dexter if he's available. I noticed that he is in the waiting room. So, Giancarlo, if we can grab Dexter to bring him into the booth. I see he is there now. Dexter, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Hi, Dexter. Look, this is Richard. Dexter, your showing a couple of weeks ago at Lime Rock Park was inspirational to us commentators here, I must say. You delivered up to your expectations. So what do you think about tonight?
I think I've got a good chance at another top 5, possibly. I think I have the speed for it. It's just a matter of surviving.
Yeah, that is so true. I tell you what, I've been watching the practice sessions and it has been accident after accident, lots of carnage. The draft, I think, has everybody fooled. You're doing 130 miles an hour by the time you come into turn 1, so people don't necessarily take that into account all the time. However, I notice you're up to 6th place in the qualifying, so you're in a good position.
Yeah, I finally got a good draft on a lap that was at least decent, so I think that's about as good as I'm gonna get it for now.
Yeah, well, look, it's a long race, 30 laps, 45 minutes of racing. Anything can happen, but we'll have both my fingers and our couple of toes crossed for you, because you are one of our favorites in the series. Joe and I have a little private bet on you, so you better live up to our expectations. Yes, you there?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, sorry, I'm having a little trouble here.
That's all right. All right, Dexter, we'll leave you to it. Qualifying is almost finished, just about 2 or 3 minutes. And we wish you the best of luck, and we'll be watching.
Thank you.
Cheers. Joe, yep, now you were talking about these penalties. That is your speciality, as I said. I still can't get my head around it, so away you go, mate.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. Real quick, I'll run through this as the qualifying wraps up. The penalty point system, penalties are handed out like they normally would in a race. You have your marshals and whatnot handing them down as they see people not racing fair, making contact and whatnot. The thing is, where it gets different is they hand out points. If you have 1 through 3 points, then you're safe. There's nothing happens other than you just need to watch out and make sure you're not racing too bad. And then if you hit 4 penalty points, then you have a mandatory stop and go. And that has to be served at the start of the race. Same thing with 5 points. If you hit 6, you're in serious trouble. You definitely want to stay very clean after that because you got a race suspension, and you should be back the next race. So it'll be interesting. If you have 1 through 3, you can also take a voluntary pass-through, which Arthur Chan mentioned. So we'll see how that plays out. If anybody chooses to serve theirs, including Arthur, that basically takes you down a point, I believe. I might be wrong on that. We're getting close
Joe,
to starting
yes.
here. So would you
break
like to run through the top 10?
Yes, sir. We are about 3 or 4 seconds away from the gridding. At the moment, the top 10 looks like this. We have João Freitas in first position. He's followed by Jer Yanis and then Guilherme Rato. Sam McAleer is in 4th place, followed by Joseph Aero, who's obviously done a fast time late in the session. Arthur Chan is in 6th. Dexter Castro is in the top 10 in 7th place. Tom Rathy is another of the drivers that we see regularly in the top 10. Marcus Lambert is there in 9th place. And rounding out the top 10, we have Mikael Gustafsson. Joe?
Absolutely. And let's see, that would be the 6th row. We have 11th, Stefan Moraine. 12th is Tuomas Halonen. 13th is Saba Volika Jr., who surprised us last week with a very good qualifying. Chuck Johnson, number 87, is 14th. Arcadius Tederix is 15th. Benjamin Lanouette in the number 1 car is 16th. Matthias Soini is 17th. Mihai Masesson is 18th. Jonathan Kier is 19th. And John Kueneman is 20th.
I believe they will be starting any second from now. The engines are already revving. I'll get you to call the start, Joe.
Yeah, they're reeling those engines up. The lights should be going out any second now, hopefully soon. Yeah, I can hear them revving them. This will be interesting to see how this first corner plays out. It tends to get a little crowded into here, even on the first lap.
It does remind me very much of Daytona, the entry to that first corner, Joe.
Yeah, it's very tricky braking. You want to take it as fast as you can. We're seeing the cars get those little MX-5s spooled up.
10 seconds, 8 seconds.
Lights are coming out. As soon as those green lights come up, these guys are going to punch that accelerator and take off as hard as they can. Here they go. And the green flag is out. They're off at Charlotte Motor Speedway. João Freitas leads them off. Yanis is close behind. Guilherme Rato is keeping them in check. Through the first corner they go. I'm not seeing any big action so far. Everyone's playing nice and clean. All right, as they head through the infield, I thought I heard someone possibly make contact there, but João Freitas is already trying to make a little bit of a lead over Yanis. Guilherme Rato is right behind him on his bumper, and 4th place Sam McAleer has all 3 of them in his sights. Richard?
Yes, and they are followed by Joseph Aero and Arthur Chan a little bit further back. We're still looking at João Freitas, who is customary, is kind of in his customary position, always leads off the pack, because he always qualifies the fastest or close to the fastest. But now we're getting onto the oval section, and Sam McAleer is making a move on, is it? Yes, I believe that is Guilherme Rato is making a move on. So if he can pull this off, he'll be up to 3rd place, Joe.
It's still very early on. We're only on the first lap, and already Sam is thinking about trying to work his way up there. I did see we had a little bit of trouble back towards the back of the pack, but I couldn't make out who it was. Someone spun in that fast right-hand kink on the infield. Sam is looking to the outside of turn one as they come up to cross the line. Guilherme is gaining on J.R. Janis, though, under braking. So is Sam McAleer. In fact, he's right on the outside of Guilherme Rato, but he's not quite close enough. That's very tricky. There's that outside wall. That corner wall is right there, and it's eaten plenty of drivers up in its day.
And I'm watching just a little bit further back. Dexter Castro is still in 7th place, but he's charging pretty hard, and he seems to have pulled out a small gap from the 8th place guy. In front of him, he's got it all to do as they work the infield at the moment. 7 cars, not much between them at all, Joe.
Definitely. You know, it's interesting to see that they've already pulled out. I think you're going to see a lot of pack racing like this. Like we said, that draft is going to be a huge factor. If you can stick with the guy in front, it's going to keep you together, and that's, I think, going to be key. The real question is, as it gets to the end, are they going to start hanging back and wait for that last lap to get the draft and you know, snipe them at the end, maybe do it a little bit NASCAR style?
Yes, and we have to remember that, of course, pit stops come into play in all of these races. They're limited by fuel. I think they only allowed 3.6 or 3.8 gallons of fuel, which means that everyone has to make at least one pit stop. So that'll come into play later on in the race as well. As we see now, Sam McAleer, look at, and we have a spinner. We have a spinner. Arthur Chan has spun his car. Dexter Castro passes him, and we are now down to 4 or 5 in the lead pack.
Poor Arthur Chan. He so rarely gets a good race, it seems like. But it seemed like he was by himself. I didn't see any contact, so that might have been his own doing.
Yes, that's correct. He seemed to go down onto the apron, and it might be that the angle of the apron tricked him up, and that's why he spun his car. But at the moment, we still have João Freitas in the lead. J.R. Janis is in 2nd place at the moment, which is, he's always a strong runner, but he's a bit higher up early on in the race than he's been in the previous races. The interesting one that I am watching is Sam McAleer. We haven't seen much of Sam previously. He hasn't contested all the races, and the one that he did contest, he didn't do too well in, but he's up to 3rd place at the moment, Joe.
Yeah, Sam is spoken very highly of by the other drivers. When we've spoken to them, a lot of them have mentioned his name amongst the, you know, here's the hot shoes that you got to watch out for. In fact, you know, in the preseason, everyone kind of expected him to be up there challenging. His lack of presence is probably what's hurt him so far, but maybe he can make up for it here tonight as he closes in on J.R. Janis in 3rd place.
Yes, another little surprise package is Joseph Aero. Now, you will remember that Joseph Aero came up in the statistics as being the driver who's competed in just about every single race. I can't remember whether he was in the last race at Lime Rock Park. I think if he was. If he was, then he has not missed a race. This would be his 50th race, which is quite a mark. And to see him up in 4th place is pretty good. And Arthur Chan, who was there, has probably dropped a whole number of spots now. I'm looking to see where Dexter is from these 4, but he's a little way back. So it looks like these 4 at the moment are the ones to be watching, because they have a pretty close battle here, Joe.
Yeah, that top 4 are all kind of keeping in touch with each other, just like we were saying. And, well, not quite. It looks like it's actually... Oh, yes, it is a top 4. I apologize. So, you know, one of the things with this pack racing that I'm curious about, with strategy, usually you want to do the opposite of what I would think guys are going to do here, as Guilherme Rato has started on Sam McAleer, but he's got blocked by J.R. Janis in 2nd. They're looking to go 3 wide, and it's early in the race. Sam wisely backs out of it. Guillermo, though, still wants a position. He's trying to get up into 2nd place. In fact, he's got the inside line. He's probably going to have it if he can just get ahead of J.R. J.R.'s not giving up quite yet. In fact, now he's under threat from Sam McAleer. Sam goes clean by through the infield. Sam moves up to 3rd, and Guilherme Rato moves up into 2nd.
Yes, unfortunately, the big loser there was Guilherme, was that João Freitas? So let's look at the leaderboard. So we've got now João Freitas still in 1st place. Yanis was the loser out of that, and now we have Sam McAleer in third, and Yanis still up there though, Joe.
Yeah, he's still in it. It's only lap 5, so there's a long way to go still, but he did lose 2 positions. It could be just that he's trying to play the patience game, just wait it out and let those guys make the gutsy moves early on. As we've seen in this series with so many cars and usually on smaller tracks, you kind of just want to stay out of trouble, keep it clean, you know, keep your nose clean through the whole race, and you can be there to pick the pieces up at the end of the race.
That's right. Now I'm watching Arthur Chan once again. He seems to have picked the pace back up again, and he's currently in 6th place. So he is charging, and he's not out of it by any means. I'm looking for Dexter Castro. I'm not seeing him just at the minute, Joe.
He's currently chasing down Marcus Lambert. In fact, he's right on top of the rear of Marcus Lambert. They're heading into the infield currently, and Dexter's taking a little bit of a peek. That's a fast corner there. It's kind of a braking zone for the next one, so it's not really quite a place to pass unless you're truly gutsy. He wisely backed out of it. He's currently got Marcus not too far ahead of him. You know, I was talking a little bit earlier while we got a chance about the pit strategy being just slightly different. With it being pack racing, I think what you're going to see is a lot of guys that will try and pit with someone in front of them, try and keep that pace so that you can catch that draft, because if you get to be by yourself, you're almost at a disadvantage.
Yes, that's right. And I was I was watching Marcus Lambert. Marcus actually disappeared from the screen for a little while, and as Dexter is right on his bumper at the moment, going down the oval, Dexter will no doubt pull out of the draft if he can, maybe try for the inside, but Marcus is having none of it. As we saw 2 weeks ago, Marcus and Dexter were having a battle as well. But in the meantime, we have another driver coming up from the back of them, which I think is Mikael Gustafsson. Wisely, Dexter pulls back and allows Marcus to go through turn 1. If he had kept on his bumper all the time, there could have been some nasty things happening there, Joe.
I think Dexter was actually trying some NASCAR style racing there. He was trying to bump draft Marcus to pick up the pace. I have to admit, I've never tried that in these MX-5s. I have no idea if it works. The way that Joseph Arrow closed up on them towards the end of the lap, I suspect it wasn't doing what he had hoped.
Right, so that was Joseph Arrow that's caught up. It seems like my my leaderboard screen is out of whack at the moment, but no matter. We'll pick up the action again here with Dexter. He's back on the tail of Marcus, and we'll see what he can do this time. I think what he should do possibly is pull out of the draft and as they approach turn 1, and perhaps try the outside line to try and pass him, because he closes up pretty well as they approach the start-finish. Now this is the tricky part, and he does what I've said. He goes to the outside. What's he going to do? Marcus has moved over a little bit on him, and it's still very tight, and he wisely once again decides, and there's a crash. There's a crash behind there, Joe. Have you seen what happened there?
I'm looking for it currently. Looks like Joseph Arrow had actually pit also. Ayrton Ellis will have to keep us up to date on who's currently taking pit stops, as it looks like some people are starting to do so. I can't quite find it. However, did notice that Jer Janis is, in fact, he's making a pass on Marcus, on Sam McAleer, I'm sorry. And in fact, they've got, who have they got behind him? Oh, I'm sorry, that was Guillermo Rato making a pass on Sam McAleer. Jer Janis is behind these three. As I was watching them, and you were talking about that with Dexter and the draft and everything, I almost wonder if an intelligent driver would be thinking, I can go a little bit lighter on the gas, and I can go longer. I can pit a little bit later than everyone else, take a little bit less fuel, and maybe shortstop everybody.
Sorry to cut in there, Joe. We've got Sam McAleer making a big move on, I think that's Guillermo Rato. They side by side as they go around the oval. And let's see who is brave enough to take it all the way into turn 1. Currently still side by side, followed up by Jer Yanis in the background there. and I think Sam McAleer once again thinks that discretion is the better part of valor and allows Guilherme to go into turn 1 before him. Welcome, Ellis. Ayrton, I see you are with us in the booth. Welcome, welcome.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Excellent. So what have you been looking at so far? Give us a few words.
Yeah, I've just been following you guys around. Definitely a lot of excitement, a lot of fast drivers in the field. The top 4 guys are very close in speed, and a little disappointed to see Dexter drop back a little bit, because I think he actually had the pace to keep up with those guys. The crash that you were talking earlier with Arthur Chan, that was actually a bump from Dexter in turn 1, which caused Arthur to spin in turn 1, just because you guys seemed to think it was a spin.
That's interesting to find out. We must have missed that. So once again, Arthur, we've seen him have that in other races as well, just be at the wrong place at the wrong time. The person behind him didn't know how to brake it hard enough. So we were talking about this battle here. I believe we're still following the race between not Marcus Lambert, I keep calling him that, is Sam McAleer. I'm sorry, Sam. He's actually on the outside of Guilherme Ratto once again, and this is for second place, ladies and gentlemen. They're heading towards the first turn across the start-finish line. Sam was actually in front, but he brakes way early and lets Guilherme back in front, but he's got a better exit, and this could be his strategy. I noticed he was getting a better exit in the other laps. In fact, yeah, that was a really smart move. He's pretty much clear past. Guilherme doesn't really have an answer through there, although he's trying. In fact, he's trying to stick his nose on the inside through that infield, but that's compromised his exit, and Yanis is on the outside, Richard.
Yes, these 3 are battling very, very hard for the second place. But what it's done is it's given João Freitas the opportunity to skip away from them, and he currently has a quite large margin, quite a large gap to these 3, because they have been battling intensely. And in fact, the guys coming up behind them, Joseph Aero and such, are also following, or catching up to them as well. I think that at the moment, you know, these 3 guys, it might be wise for them to give each other a little bit of space, and as the laps wind down and the pit stops come into play, might be the time to do a hard battle. But of course, you know, the blood flows to your head, and all you see in front of you is the opportunity to overtake somebody, and to hell with it, I'm gonna go for the position, you know? What do you think, Ayrton?
Yeah, definitely this track really just it's very tough for passing a lot of awkward corners that make it difficult to get a run on people, and definitely the draft makes people just want to pass, kind of like Daytona. It's just, you really have to have some patience to stick behind someone in order to catch up, kind of like what Dex was doing with the bump drafting. On this track, it's not too effective bump drafting because it's not as long as an oval and it's very banked. But yeah, patience is a very important thing here on this track.
Attribute to have. That's correct. These 3 are still going at it hammer and tongs. Guilherme Ratto has now once again taken over the second place, and he's still followed by Sam McAleer and Yanis not far behind them, Joe.
Yeah, you know, I think these guys are getting schooled a little bit in NASCAR-style racing, because I did the iRacing Daytona 500, and I tell you what, that taught me a whole lot about working with other drivers. With an oval like this, like you said, they've got to learn to just start working together. You can't always be hoping to attack. You got to think your way through this race, and Sam is getting awful close. He's drifting down the track a little bit towards Guilherme Ratto. I thought they were going to touch, but he's side by side once again as they come across that start-finish line into the braking zone of turn 1. Yanis is kind of taking a look, but I don't think there's anywhere for him to go with 2 of those cars in front of him. In the meantime, they've got Marcus Lambert, who's closed up on them. And where is Dexter Castro in all this? He's still kind of far back. He hasn't quite caught up, which surprises me.
Yes, these guys are still going hammer and tongs. We've been updated by the director. A number of guys have dropped out. Tom Rathy, Jeremy Naylor, John Kelly. Also, we have Mikael Gustafsson. So a number of the drivers are falling out of the race. So that's an early attrition. But the action is all here as our top 3, joined now by Joseph Aero, are going back onto the oval again. it seems that João Freitas is, he said goodbye to this bunch and he's way out in front. But this is where the action is at the moment. Look at them, nose to tail, Joe.
And
Yeah, Sam is just attempting the pump draft once again, and as Ayrton said, it doesn't seem to be totally working because Jer is still pulling up beside them, getting a little bit wobbly from Sam McAleer trying to push Guillermo Rato. I don't know that these guys are gonna keep trying that. It just doesn't seem to be doing what they're hoping.
And Joseph Aero has come into the pits, I notice. Is that right, Ayrton?
yeah, 3 drivers actually just have done their pit stop. Definitely the first early birds here. Matthew Baker, Mihai Misison, and David Schaefer have done their pit stop, so they are the first guys to start the pit window.
And we're only 13 laps in, so these are almost halfway actually, since this is a 30-lap race. So no one seems to be really banking on early strategy like we had been seeing before. I kind of wonder if we're going to be seeing guys trying to go as late as possible.
Yeah, actually, Dexter Castro and Marcus Lambert have just done their pit stops as well.
They're currently exiting the pits, which is a very tricky exit actually. Dumps you right in the middle of the action. And Marcus Lambert, I think he jumped Dexter in the pits there. Was he behind him before that?
No, he was in front with the top guys, Sam, Guillermi, and Gier, but Dexter gained a lot of time through that. I mean, he was quite a few seconds behind that group earlier on.
Well, it sounds like that Marcus had a 17-second lap from what I understand, and then Dexter had a 13-second pit stop, not lap. That'd be an amazing lap. So Dexter's made up a ton of ground right there. That's some good strategy from him.
Gier Janis also has hopped into the pits as well.
Yeah, a bunch of these guys are now pitting. I think that might be wise at this stage. It gets you out of the fray. You know, fighting with other drivers, and might give you some clear space to do some reasonable laps. And also, it's pretty much on the halfway mark now. They should have enough fuel to finish the race, so it might be a wise move to get your pits done right now, Joe.
Very much so. And I'm looking at the leaders currently. Freitas is got about 9.5 seconds on Rato. So if Rato wants to do anything about this, with the pit stops being done, he's got a lot of ground to make up.
Yes, that's right. João Freitas, he's still, I don't think he's pitted yet, so he's still out there, and he's probably got a lot of distance between him and the second place person. But of course, he has to hit the pits at some stage. Well, the leaderboard's telling me that Jer Janis is in second place and Guillermo Rato in third place. Not sure with all the pit stops whether this is actually correct, Ayrton.
Yeah, Jer Janis has done his pit stop, so he must have been able to come out in front of the drivers of Joseph Aero, Chuck Johnson, who are behind. I'm not sure if that is up to date quite yet, though.
Yeah, I'm just having a look at the timing monitor. It's telling me that the leaderboard is João Freitas is top of the leaderboard. We have Rato in second place, McAleer's in third, and fourth place Joseph Aero's in fifth. Fourth place is up for grabs at this stage. So it's all changing dynamically as the pit stops take their effect, guys.
Actually, yeah. McAleer is in his pit, and actually Marcus Lambert just came out right in front of him. Marcus Lambert and Gier Janis jumped Sam McAleer in pits.
That's interesting. Those two then have effectively jumped him in the pits. So maybe I've got it called completely wrong. Maybe early pit stops are the way to go, unless those guys had run into some sort of traffic that we had missed. Currently, I'm seeing Sam. Let's see, where is he scored? I can't even find him. He must be a little bit down. Oh, I'm sorry. Is he still scored in third? That's interesting.
That is correct. Sam McAleer is still being scored in third. The computers normally take a little while in between laps to catch up on what is actually happening out on track because of the pit stops. But it'll all settle down at this stage. I'm just looking for the battles. I see Dexter is out on the track and he's just behind Sam McAleer. Not sure where there's a lap down at this stage, but this might be an interesting battle to follow as they come around on the oval and the draft kicks in and he starts to catch up on Sam McAleer. We know that Sam's pretty fast, so we'll see what Dexter will be able to do against Sam McAleer, Joe.
Yeah, he's kind of got the draft to help him out at this point. He closes up pretty well under braking. And it sounds like that Dexter had actually jumped Sam out of the pits from what we're being told. So Sam is 11th and Dexter is currently 12th. But that, as we had said, that battle is not totally correct since we're waiting for the pit stops to totally cycle through, and then we'll see where everyone sits. But it's still significant that Dexter's gained as much ground as he has, because he definitely was not this close before the pit stops.
Well, another little surprise due to the pit stops, Chuck Johnson is now up to 3rd place, and he obviously has not pitted yet because he was much further down than that in the opening laps. Joseph Aero, the leaderboard's telling me, is in 4th place now. John Kueneman, who we haven't seen or spoken of in this race before, and Benjamin Lanouette are holding down 5th and 6th spot. So it looks like the guys who are in the mid-pack have moved forward because they haven't done their pit stops yet. And the only fast guy still out there, if I'm correct, is João Freitas. Joe?
Yeah, both he and Guilherme Rato have not pitted yet. We gave incorrect information on that a little bit earlier. So, because the next person down, Chuck Johnson, in 3rd, is a whole 27 seconds back. We're still waiting to see how things shuffle out. With them running long, it could be that they're going to try and short fill, although it's not too late in the race currently. We're only at lap 17. We still got 13 to go. But we'll find out how that plays out. My guess would be that they're going to try and short fill it just a little bit and see if they can make up some time in the pits.
Yes, well, you know, I was looking, I thought Sam McAleer and Dexter Castro, that Dexter might have been a lap down, but that is not the case. Sam McAleer currently in 10th place on the leaderboard. Dexter Castro is actually in 11th place on track. And if he can hunt down and overtake Sam McAleer, he'll be in the top 10, Joe.
I wonder if, Ayrton, if you could take a gander and see how long it takes a person to get from entry to pit to exit to pit, how much time they lose. That could give us an idea, because I'm seeing currently Yanis is about 48 seconds behind João Freitas. So depending on how much time they lose, we'll get an idea of where they're going to cycle through here. And speaking of which, Yanis currently has Marcus Lambert right on top of his bumper, but Marcus backs off as they enter the front straightaway and brake for that first turn. They're dealing with some lap traffic, who smartly gets out of the way, gives them a little wave, and on they go. Into the infield they go, where the lights turn on. Now, it's interesting that this is the night version of this track, because even though the oval is lit, the infield is not lit.
That's true. And what happens is that you have to depend, as we have, who was that, Marcus Lambert?
Yeah, that was Marcus.
He got pretty loose, and Yanis has managed to now put some distance between himself and Marcus. So we were talking about the lights. You have to depend virtually on your headlights to know where you are on the track, and it can be tricky in that section of the course, and it's not surprising that people are slipping and sliding around. Mind you, the oval section is pretty well lit, so most people are pretty comfortable on the oval.
João Freitas is in the pits.
So our leader has now entered the pits. Ayrton, you'll have to tell us in a bit, since you did a lap, and Yao comes out right in the midst of traffic. In fact, that was Chuck Johnson that just went by him. Chuck still hasn't pitted, so that was not for the lead. Guilherme has currently inherited that. So Yao has his out of the way, and he's currently, let's see where everyone else is down the line, trying to figure out, wow, Yanis is quite a ways back as they shuffle through. He should be the next person down effectively. In fact, last time by, he was still 37 seconds back. I don't know if that's entirely accurate. We'll get another chance to check it on the next time by the start-finish line. Richard?
Yeah. Okay, so the leaderboard now is Guillermo Rato is in front. João Freitas is showing as being in second place, even though he's just come out of the pits and only about 1.5 seconds behind Guillermo Rato, which is about right because these guys were leading at the beginning of the race, and if everyone has done their pit stops, Chuck Johnson 18 or so seconds back from João, and then we have Benjamin Lanouette and Yanis. Now Yer is about 38 seconds back, so it seems to me that if both Guillermo and João have done their pit stops, then they are in the box seats at the moment. Ayrton, can you check whether Guillermo?
Yep, he's in his pit stop right now. João has just drove past the pit lane exit, and Guillermo is coming out right now. So, not much time gained from visual view. We'll see how it looks after a lap.
All right, let's go back to this battle between Dexter and Sam McAleer. These two guys are going at it hammer and tongs. It seems like Dexter Castro has now taken over the spot from Sam McAleer, who wisely backed out into the notorious turn 1. And but these two guys are definitely the battle of the moment, Joe.
Yeah, Sam hasn't seemed to have gotten any clear air in this whole race. He's been duking it out with someone or other for the entire time that we've looked at him. So poor guy has probably lost a bit of time. I suspect that he probably could have been running a slightly better pace if he had just gotten by himself for a little bit. Although as I say that, I've contradicted myself because the draft could have helped him as well. We'll find out as he dukes it out with Dexter here coming onto the oval.
That's right. Dexter has a few yards on him now. Chuck Johnson hasn't pitted. He's still sitting up there in second place. He has to pit sometime because we're now 30 minutes into the race already. Sorry, go ahead, Ayrton.
Heading into pits right now. He's just parked at his pit stall.
Excellent. So that means that everyone in the top 5 or even 10 have now pitted. I'm not too sure about John Kueneman and Benjamin Lanouette, but certainly João Freitas has pitted, and he is in place number 1. Guillermo Rato is in second place if Chuck Johnson has gone into the pits. So maybe, Joe, finally these two very, very fast drivers will have their day on the podium.
Yeah, we keep talking about them in every pre-race and how they are the fast drivers.
And spinning both Dexter and I'm not sure who he was following. They made contact and they back out on the track, but they were both off track for a moment. Then
we're gonna check at the replay. I thought I saw Hiro Kanaya in there. I don't know if he was involved in that at all. Yeah, it looks like Hiro was a part of that, unfortunately. He's usually really good at staying out of the way. I think, honestly, it looks like Dexter got just a little bit too eager to try and get by.
Yeah, that's what it looked like to me, too. I was watching it live, and it certainly looked like Dexter expected Hiro to just move over. Sorry, Ayrton, you were saying?
Sam McAleer actually went into pits again, losing multiple positions. I'm not sure if he's short-fueled or something. He didn't seem to take tires, just a quick stop and go.
Well, we've never seen a two-stop strategy here yet, but maybe today's the first. I don't know that that's going to work out for him very well. Oh, we're hearing that he might have gotten a penalty. I don't know that we've confirmed yet. We'll find out later. Maybe we can get him in here after the race and dig that up. But I think it's worth noting. Oh, wow. Actually, very much worth noting. Last time I looked, Guillermo Rato was 7 seconds behind João Freitas. He's now 3.5 seconds behind João Freitas, so he's cut down that gap significantly. Either João ran into some trouble, or he made a mistake, or Guillermo's got a severely hooked up car at the moment.
Yes, I think we can run through the top 5 or so because that has pretty well settled down now. João Freitas is in the lead of this race, and he's being followed about 3.5 seconds, 3.6 seconds as it shows now, by Guillermo Rato, and Yanis is in 3rd place. Marcus Lambert is having some good luck today, and he's into 4th place, Joe.
Yeah, I better get that wood to knock on, because I don't want to elicit the commentator's curse on poor Marcus. We had been saying before that he tends to have the pace tends to be pretty fast, just some things have gotten in his way before. But in 4th place, that's a pretty good showing. Maybe he's a podium isn't totally ruled out. He's about 5 seconds behind Jer Yanis. All it takes is some good traffic to come his way.
Well, Dexter Castro is in 6th place, and he's charging hard at the moment. He's following Chuck Johnson, I believe that is, and that is for the 5th place they are fighting for. So this is a genuine battle, not a back marker versus fast driver, and that'll be for the 5th place. So there's every chance that these two and Marcus, because they kind of, let's see, Marcus is 11 seconds behind. Chuck and Dexter are like 24 and 25. So they're battling for the 5th place at the moment, Joe.
Yeah, I'm watching that, and Dexter's starting to bring back a bit of what I was talking about before in last race, that sometimes he lacks patience. He's got to just kind of wait for the right moment instead of barge his car in there at any opportunity. He was taking a peek through the infield in some of those right-hand corners that just kind of, it's really sketchy to try and sneak your nose in. He's got a little bit of a distance between he and Chuck at the moment, Richard.
Yes, sir. I am actually watching it's a visible distance now between places 1 and 2. It looks like Guillermo Rato is less than a second now behind João Freitas, which to me is pretty strange. João Freitas has lost virtually 3 seconds on that last lap. I'm not sure if anyone saw what happened there, Ayrton?
Yeah, I've been reviewing his past few laps, and he's dropped down like 3 seconds off the pace on multiple laps. I'm not quite sure what's going on because I don't see him like hitting traffic or anything. It's very odd.
Since we were speculating whether people could be short fueling, could it be that maybe Yao has done that and he cut it a little too close?
Possible, but I'm not sure what he's done, but certainly Guillermo has caught up to him. He is now less than a second behind him. So once again, we might have a really exciting finish for the 4th race in a row, Joe.
Yeah, we've only got 6 laps to go, so things are winding down. We're gonna, or rather, they're actually winding up, if anything, with the way the leaders are coming together. Less than a second last time by the line. Let's see how they are. Oh, and Yao pulls off. He had to have short fueled it. We might have just called it a bit ago. He's pulling in probably for a splash and dash here. Guillermo inherits the lead.
Yes, so he was definitely trying to save fuel. In the past few laps, he was going only 100 miles per hour on the oval section of the track when he should have been going about 120. So he was definitely trying to keep the fuel in that car. It wasn't working out.
Yeah, the strategy comes into play once again. I tell you, a pit stop is just an equalizer like you wouldn't believe. So now we have Guillermo Rato in 1st place. There's about 7 seconds to 2nd place, and that man is Jer Yanis. Marcus Lambert is on the podium at this point in time. If he can keep it together for the rest of the laps, he's about 10 seconds back. And João Freitas, who's been in the pits, we're not quite sure where he will come out. 5th place at the moment on the leaderboard is showing us Chuck Johnson. Benjamin Lanouette is in 6th, and 7th place is John Kueneman. So not sure what's happened there. Joseph Aero, Dexter Castro, what has happened to these guys, Joe?
You know, you were just talking about the importance of strategy, and I suspect that's what happened to these guys, is they just called it a little bit wrong, and that's going to shuffle you down the order. João Freitas, interestingly, has come out in 4th place. He's a bit of a ways back from Marcus Lambert. He's going to have to really book it to catch him because he's about half of the oval away from him. So there's a decent amount of distance.
It looks like some more people have pitted there. So Dexter, who was fighting for 5th place just a little while ago, is had to go back into the pits, probably for a fuel stop, and he's now way back in 9th place. So Guillermo Rato and Jer Yanis, Marcus Lambert. That's our top 3 at the moment, Joe.
Absolutely. It sounds like Dexter's actually even farther down. He's currently 17th from what the information that I'm getting. but Guilherme seems to have called this just right, as long as he doesn't also run out of fuel. We've seen a number of guys today take their second stop when I don't think they expected to do so.
Which is kind of strange. I mean, it's a 45-minute race. You would think that 3.8 gallons of fuel or 3.6 gallons of fuel is enough to get you, and we've seen it in past races. It can get you way past
Guilherme
the
is
midway
pitting now
mark.
too.
And Guilherme is pitting? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah. Guilherme is pulled into the pits as well, so maybe these top runners just simply are sucking up the fuel a bit too fast. Yanis, he's going to inherit the lead. He comes across the line right now as he goes by the pits. Guilherme slowing down to his spot. Through the first corner, here it goes. I'm wondering, we keep saying, people are picking up the first position, but is anybody going to have the fuel to make it to the end of this thing?
Ha! I tell you, it's a race of surprises. Yanis now in the lead. Marcus Lambert, no doubt, will inherit the second place, and João Freitas is back in third.
Yeah, Yao is definitely booking it. In fact, he's right behind Guilherme Rato, so Guilherme actually jumped him in their possibly unintentional pit stop, unless they intended to do a two-stopper. I doubt it with only 3 laps to go. So yeah, Yao could still be fighting for the... that would be the battle for 5th, I believe, currently, between him and Guillermo.
That is correct, and we have Chuck Johnson in there in 5th place according to the leaderboard. Joseph Aero in 6th place, and Benjamin Lanowet, who can best be described as a mid-pack runner from the past races that we've watched, is in 6th place, Joe, or 7th place, sorry.
He's done a fine job of doing what I was talking about earlier, just keeping it clean, keeping out of trouble, although I see a bit of a damage on his right rear, it looks like, so he's been in the wars somewhat. But, he stayed out of it enough to at least work his way up to 7th with 3 laps to go. So if he can make it to the end, then he is doing pretty nicely to grab a whole chunk of points for the championship battle.
That's right. And that's what we got to keep in mind. That's what it's all about. It's about the championship. And, you've got some really smart guys like Jan Kueneman, who turns up for 1 race out of 4 now, and is still leading the championship, Joe.
Well, he can't keep doing that forever. It might be that these are some bad courses for him, or he might just have real-world obligations. We don't know. Well, I'm looking back at Guillermo and Yao, and Guillermo made a mistake.
The battle is on.
In fact, his car is blinking a lot. He might have a connection problem. He's let Yao by. He literally pulled over and just let him by. I suspect that he's having problems with his internet connection.
Well, that's right. We should explain to the viewers, this is sim racing, as we all know, and your internet connection is your only link between yourself and the actual race that you're in. If your internet connection plays up, mind you, he seems to be back on track again now, and he's really fast. The draft is aiding him. Where are these two guys? These are 3rd and 4th place at the moment, and the battle is on. There can only be a couple of laps left, Joe.
Yeah, this is the battle for the final spot on the podium, and I think those guys are going to want it so that they can come to talk to us nice people here in the booth. Guilherme is closing up in on the back bumper of João Freitas, now with only 2 laps to go. We're on lap 29, so less than 2 laps to go technically, but that's neither here nor there. What is here is this battle for 3rd place between 2 very, very fast drivers, Richard.
Yeah, these are 2 of the best in the series, there's no doubt about it. I have got a tight camera on them, and I tell you what, there is no space between them at the moment. This is going to go on right to the checkered flag, no doubt about it.
I can guess that Guilherme might be playing some last lap strategy here. He may have let João Freitas past him because of the draft. Being in front on the last lap will not mean that you have that position, so Guilherme may be waiting to get a run on the last lap to pass on the final lap.
I was just suspecting that, and I kind of figured we would see someone try and play that game, because it is a very valid way to snipe a position. Meantime, up front, let's just stop back in as the white flag flies for Jer Yanis. He's coming through turn 1. He's going to lead us around. Marcus Lambert is about 4.5 seconds behind him, so it's going to take a mistake from Jer for him to lose this win at this point.
That's correct. So I think our first 2 places on the podium are almost assured. You can never say without any certainty that that is the case, but the 3rd place on the podium is anybody's game here, and the two of the top runners in this series in João Freitas and Guilherme Rato are battling it out as Guilherme tries a move on Joe, has a bit of a look. Are we on the last lap already, guys?
We are on white flag.
Well, Joe, call it to the end for us. It's one of these 2 guys going to be on the podium, and one is going to have to take 4th position. Currently, that's Guilherme Rato.
Absolutely, and as they enter the oval, this is going to be crucial here. Keep an eye on Jer for me, and let me know when he's finishing so we can jump over to him, give him his due for a win. In the meantime, Yao is currently leading Guilherme into the oval. They're in NASCAR 2 as they head to the back straight. I don't think Guilherme's quite close enough. He's going to have one hell of a run if he hopes to try and make the pass. I'm looking up, and Jer Yanis is actually going to take the win today at Charlotte at the nighttime road course as he weaves the car in celebration. In the meantime, I'm looking back, heading through the final corner. We've got João Freitas leading Guilherme Rato still. Guilherme is really closing up.
Here's where the draft comes into play. Has he got enough to get him? They touched on the line, but I do believe João Freitas has done it. João Freitas has got the 3rd place.
Yes, that was very tight for Yao. He was probably biting his nails at the line there. In the meantime, Marcus Lambert did pull off a 2nd position. Excellent podium from Marcus. We did expect good things from him, and he delivered. Chuck Johnson, in the meantime, Mr. Late Strategy there, he took home a 5th place, and Joseph Arrow took home 6th.
That's correct. And a couple of the minor places, John Kueneman, whom we haven't seen or heard of at all during the race or in previous races, he's in 7th. Mihai Messerson, he's in 8th place. Stefan Morian has just quietly slipped into 9th place. And Arthur Chan, who we didn't see for most of the race, apart from the very beginning, rounds out the top 10, Joe.
Yeah, Arthur ran into some trouble early on that we saw, and it doesn't seem like he was ever able to recover after what was, I believe, a 3rd place start. Well, behind them, in 11th, we've got Matthew Baker. 12th is Benjamin Lanouette. 13th is Peter Yerza. 14th is David Schaefer. 15th is Jonathan Keir. 16th is Matthias Soini. 17th is Dexter Castro. 1 lap down. He must have run into some trouble as well. 18th is Scott Malcolm. 19th is Lowell Jewell. 20th is Hiro Kanaya. Louis Baboni brings in 21st. Bill Zahn is in 22nd. 3 laps down. Henry Connaught is 23rd, 4 laps down. And from there on down, I think we've either got cars who didn't finish or ran into severe trouble. We've got Sam McAleer 24th, Andy Morgan 25th, Saba Volika 26th, Jeremy Naylor in 27th, Tom Ratje in 28th, Tumas Halonen in 29th, John Kelly in 30th, Mikael Gustafsson in 31st, Claudio Klima in 32nd, Arcadius Teterix in 33rd, and Kelvin Stallings in 34th. To round them out, 35th is Jan Koemans. Jan Koemans didn't actually race today. He must have stopped in momentarily. So Kelvin Stallings is our final position in 34th.
And folks, we do apologize. We put the standings up on the screen for you to have a look at. But it seems to me that iRacing is not playing nicely with us at the moment. We noticed this in an earlier race as well that was broadcast by another broadcast station, that right at the end of the race we don't seem to have the results showing properly. So we apologize for that. However, our good friend and commentator Joe Peak has called it all for you. So a great race, and we'll take you back into the booth, and hopefully we get an opportunity to talk to some of the contenders. Joe?
Yeah, it looks like we've got 2 of the 3 podium currently. We're waiting for Jer Yanis to come in, but in the meantime, let's talk to our 3rd place finisher, João Freitas. Let's drag him in. João, can you hear us?
No response from João at the moment. João Freitas, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay, Joe, you can hear us now. Go ahead.
Yeah, it looks like you had a little bit of trouble on the fuel strategy. You made a very late stop. Was that planned, or did you not expect to be running out like that?
Unfortunately, my strategy wasn't the best. I underfueled it. I thought I had the fuel enough, but it didn't get to the end. So
Man.
I had to.
Yeah, we saw that with a number of people. It looks like a lot of guys had the same idea as you did. It was a very close finish between you and Guilherme. Did you think you'd have him, or do you think he'd snipe you at the line?
I was pretty confident. I know he was like 0.8 entering the oval, so I was pretty confident I would be able to finish third.
Well, that was
There
good
was some
stuff.
birds.
Gave us an exciting finish there. Unfortunate that you finished third instead of first place, since you led quite a bit. Thanks for talking to us. Do you have any sponsors or shout outs that you want to make?
No sponsors, no sponsors.
All right. Thanks for coming and joining us, Yao.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Richard. We've also got Marcus Lambert, our second place finisher, who raced a pretty good race. Why don't we pull him in here? Do you want to take care of this interview?
Yeah, we'll have a chat to Marcus. Marcus, can you hear us?
Gotcha.
Marcus, a good finish in second place, my friend. You just quietly went out and did it tonight. Tell us about it.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. Earlier in the week, I was over 2 seconds off the pace, and I just kept practicing, and then I was happy with my qualifying, realized I had a significant chance at a top 10. As the race progressed on, I realized I had a chance at a top 5, and then I was riding behind Jur there for a good 4 or 5 laps, made a mistake, thought, oh well, now I don't get to fight for 4th, and then everybody started dropping like flies for some reason. I assumed fuel. And little did I know that little mistake I made cost me a chance at the win, but I'm super excited about the second place finish.
Yeah, we are very happy for you as well, Marcus. Yes, it seemed to me that a lot of guys undercalculated or miscalculated their fuel that they would need to finish the race and had to make a second stop. Did you only make one stop, or did you have to make a second stop as well?
Well, actually, the entire week I was working on just getting faster and getting comfortable with the track, and normally I do a bunch of fuel runs, but I didn't do any this week. But there got to a point where I caught up to a pack of 3 cars who were fighting each other, and I was able to ride behind them on the backstretch without any worries. And I pulled out a calculator and I started doing some math, and I knew exactly how much I needed to take and what lap I needed to pit on, and it ended up working out for me.
Yeah, that's great. Look, you've done a fine job tonight. There's no doubt about it. It just goes to show, you know, speed isn't everything. You've got to have all the attributes. So the guys that were out in front, Guilherme and
Jiao.
Jiao. Sorry about that. Just a mind block there. These guys certainly were fast, and what happened is they miscalculated on fuel, and that put them down a bit. So congratulations, Marcus. An excellent effort tonight. We hope to see more of it in the coming races.
Thank you.
All right, Joe. Looks like we might be able to talk to Jer in the 3rd place and see if we can bring him into the booth.
We're dragging him in now. Jer, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
We've got you loud and clear. Congratulations. First place finish. This is your first win of the season, is it not?
Yeah, it is. And first one in this series ever.
Oh, extra congratulations then.
Yeah, but it was kind of boring way to win, in my opinion, seeing all the guys pull to the pits in front of me.
Tell us how you really feel. It definitely wasn't unexciting from our point of view. We saw a lot of action out there. At what point did you pit, and how much fuel did you take?
I did take 7 liters of fuel, but I'm not really sure when I did pit. Kind of early, before the halfway point at least.
So early stops paid off once again. At what point did you think you had a chance to win this whole thing?
Well, I didn't really think I had a chance before I saw both of the drivers in front of me go to the pits for extra fuel.
Yeah, we watched that, and we were both caught by surprise. Did you? You said it was a bit of a boring race. Did you have any battles whatsoever throughout the whole thing?
Well, we had the close racing in the beginning, with 4 of us, but then Guillermo and Sam decided to start battle between them, and we kind of lost the lead. The leader, and he went his way by that point.
Do you think that staying within the draft was a key part of this thing, or?
Yeah, absolutely. I would have been able to stick with Joe the whole race if it wasn't for the cars battling in front of me and behind me.
Well,
although I didn't really have the pace to match him, I could have been behind him only because of the draft.
Well, I have to congratulate you on some excellent strategic driving then. As we've seen through pretty much every race so far, that's been what win races. In fact, 3 of the 4 have been won by strategy. Once more, congrats, and thanks for coming and talking to us.
And thanks a lot.
All right, well, let's see. I guess we got time for one more interview of someone of interest. I see Dexter Castro is kind of waiting in the wings, and he seemed to have had a hell of a race, so why don't we drag him in and find out what happened at the end there. Dexter, can you hear us?
Good.
Yes, I've got you.
Well, we were watching you. You had some very good battles, but it seems like you dropped back at the end. What happened? We didn't seem to see what caused you to go a lap down there.
I was just following in behind Chuck Johnson, and he got loose in turn 1, and I ended up hitting him, but the car wasn't any slower than it was after the previous damage I had had, but for some reason it told me I had to pit and came in, took 15 seconds of required repairs and was right back out, but it was kind of disappointing that it made me come in for that.
I imagine this is really disappointing after such a good showing last week. Do you think you had the pace to finish in the top 5? Because we saw you roughly around 6 or so for most of the race.
Yeah, I think I had the pace to challenge for the win, honestly. With no Jan here today, I think I had a decent shot at definitely a podium. But I got some damage early on when I ran into the back of Arthur, and after that, everyone could just drive away from me. I could make up small bits in the infield, but other than that, just everybody was killing me.
That's just an unfortunate turn of events, and we're sorry that we couldn't bring you in under better circumstances. But thanks for coming down and talking to us.
Yep, I'll see you guys later. Hopefully that goes a bit better.
Absolutely.
Okay. Joe, we've got John Kueneman in there. Now, we haven't seen him or spoken to John before, but it might be worth a quick word to, because he popped up in 7th place today. So, John, can you hear us?
Yeah, I got you guys.
John, tell us about your race, because I have to say, and apologies for saying it, that we didn't actually see much of you in the race, and we haven't called you a hell of a lot in the series. So tell us about your race and how you got up to 7th place.
Back in the first lap of that, there was kind of a backup. I think it was just before going into the uphill right-hander, and I got off into the grass, and I actually got away with getting by a couple people there, and which moved me up a couple of spots, but I just kept digging away. Had a pretty boring race, to be honest, so it's kind of good that you don't get talked about,
Well, I got to tell you, the boring races give me boring every time, because the excitement, normally you end up in the tires or on the grass.
Yeah, for sure. Me and Benjamin, I think it was back in a lap 27 or something, going into turn 1, he kind of lost it and I smashed into him. And I thought that was going to be the end of my day, but spent a lap. The car was okay for the last few laps, so I think he ran out of gas, which put me into 7th. And I had a really bad pit stop, overshot my pit. I thought I had a shot at a top 5, but it cost me a lot of time trying to get into reverse. So, oh well, there's always next week.
Well, that's right. And look, good luck and good driving today. For getting into the top 10, it's not easy. When you've got 30 odd cars, 40 cars in some of the races, to get into the top 10 is quite an achievement. So congratulations on that, and we hope to see some more of you in future races, John.
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. Thank you guys for all that you guys do. I know it's a lot of hard work, and I'm sure everybody else feels the same. So hats off to the broadcast, and thanks, man.
We love it. Don't you worry about that. We love it. Back to you, Joe.
Well, it sounds like we're being played off real soon here, so I'm going to just get some quick thoughts in and thank everyone that helped make this thing possible. It was definitely an interesting race today. We saw fuel strategy become crucial in this race, which hasn't really played elsewhere as much. But Janis called it perfectly and took the win. Awesome on him. We all want to thank our sponsor, Blondies, for putting on the MX5 World Tour. It's a bar down in, I believe it's in California, and they air our broadcast. We can't thank you guys enough for supporting us. You guys really help make this thing possible. We want to thank iRacing.com for providing the service that we broadcast on. We have to thank XSplit because they are our streaming back end. Twitch TV, we thank you too, because if you're watching this live, that's what you're watching on right now. We also need to thank Audio-Technica, who we use for our microphones. Excellent stuff. I love mine. Alesis Audio Technology, thank you too. Thanks to YouTube, Amazon, and Monoprice, who have helped us out with some of our equipment. Also want to thank Bill Zahn, the organizer of this season. This league in general, actually. He does a lot of work to make this thing happen. And Bill, thank you so much for all that you do to give these guys a chance to race. Also, thanks to GlobalSimRacingChannel.com. You are watching the Global Sim Racing channel. You can find us there, find all kinds of information, find past races, and just generally enjoy yourself if you are a race fan. Well, Richard, I also want to thank you for being my co-commentator today. It was a pleasure as always.
Yes, sir.
Also, thanks to Ayrton. He is our unsung hero, and thanks to Giancarlo, who stays behind the scenes and does a lot. Please join us a week from now. We're going to be back at let me check my notes real quick to figure out what track we're on, or maybe our director can pull it up for me real quick.
Joe, while you're thinking about that, let me just mention that later on today, in a couple of hours' time, there is another race that the GSRC will be broadcasting, and that will be in the Continental Series, the Continental Sports Car Endurance Series, featuring MX-5s and Mustangs. Join us for that, folks, if you've got some time a bit later on. We'd love to have you.
They're going to be racing at Silverstone Historic next week, by the way, in the Blondies MX5 World Tour. And like Richard said, please join us in a few hours as we air the CESES, which is a great endurance series. Well, now that we've thanked everyone, it seems, I just want to thank you guys for also watching, and let you know that you should probably race clean, race hard, and I'll hopefully see you on the track.